Hare Srinivasa, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Prasanna Venkata Gurubhyo Namaha. Now we are looking at a background of the Bhakti movement in India, and this Bhakti movement has been predicted even in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Bhagavatam and Padma Purana, there have been verses which talk about the Bhakti movement to be in Karnataka. Karnatake Vruddhim Agataha. So in Karnataka, the prediction was that the Bhakti movement would rise. And history also asserts this. Bhagavatam also talks about what is Bhakti. In Prahalad Raja's Charitra, we have heard this. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedhanam. Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu Bhaktischa Navalakshanaha. There are 9 traits of a devotee. And out of them, all of these, when they are inculcated in the devotee, that time Bhagavanta, he shows himself to that devotee because the total surrender is what brings the perception of Paramatma by his grace only. So listening to this great glory of Paramatma is the Shravana Bhakti. Then singing about it is Kirtana, thinking about it, talking about it. All these things finally culminate to offering one's total self to Paramatma. So such type of devotional fervor is seen in the Haridasas of Karnataka. So the Bhakti movement was actually begun. Bhakti itself signifies a great love towards the one who is superior. And during the times of Rama, Hanuman has showed himself to be such a devotion of Rama was very, very dear to Hanuman. We see in the Ramayana how Hanuman never took never avoided any chance. He wanted all the times to be in the seva of Sri Rama. However small the seva might be, he wanted to be in that, engaged in that. And when he went to Lanka and Ravana questioned him as to his identity, who are you? Then Hanuman told him, I am the dasa of Kosalendra, dasoham Kosalendrasya. Dasa, what is the dasa bhava? The dasa bhava is that agreeing or totally being in tune with the fact that the soul is in the complete control of the supreme soul, that is Paramatma. So Paramatma is the Swami and the soul is the Dasa. So this thought process is completely it has entered into every cell of the being. If you say physical, then it is cell. But when we say it is the Swarupa, then the Swarupa consists of the Ananda and Jnana. So the Jnana Ananda of that Jiva, if it is complete with the Dasa Bhava, then such a soul expresses the devotion in the form of outwardly through Shravana Manana, Dhyana Nidhi Dhyasana and other things when they get the outer body. And in that time also, they have this total fervor of devotion towards Paramatma. Everything takes the second place in their heart. The first place is always for Paramatma. So whether be it their food, the food that they eat, or their family members, they always feel that these are all the service of Paramatma. So such type of people are being glorified by Jagannatha Dasa in his composition Ranga Ninna Kondaduva Mangalatmara Sanga Sukha Vittu Kayo Karuna Sagara. Those who sing your glory, they are the Mangala Atmas, they are the elevated beings. Let me have the benefit of their association, says Jagannatha Dasa. And then he describes these Mangala Atmas to be like Endaru Makkalu Ninna Tondarembaro, Banduni Andadi Namamritava Savivaro. So he says that for them, whoever is with them in this body, like this, they are relations. Physically, they are related to their parents, spouse, children. All of them belong to you. They are there to serve you. That is the attitude of these beings, these elevated beings. So we can see what kind of place they have kept for Paramatma in their hearts. Now, this kind of state of devotional fervor is seen in the dasas of Karnataka. Through their songs, we are able to make that out. We have not, maybe during those times, that is during the 14th century, 15th century, there was a great rise in the Bhakti movement. Though originally it is stated that Acharya Madhva was the first one to propagate that. He himself defined Bhakti to be Mahatmya Jnana Purvastu Sudrida Sneha. Means that Sneha which is very, very Sudrida. Sudrida means which is very fast, which does not, which is not so light that you can remove it. Telling something like telling something about someone, you can remove the ties between two friends. But that kind of tie is not the one between the dasa and the swami if they have the true knowledge about the swami. That's why he said Mahatmya Jnana Purvastu Sudridaha. When you have the true knowledge of the swami and what he is, then the devotion towards him will be like unbreakable. And that devotion will take the supreme place in the heart of the devotee more than any other thing in the world. That such bhakti is the one which is cause for moksha, is what the definition of bhakti given by Acharya Madhva. And he himself has composed many songs in such devotional fervor. Singing his compositions today also brings the heart of the devotee to a very sublime state. The main compositions which are sung every day during prayer are Vande Vandyam Sadanandam Vasudevam Niranjanam. So, Vande Vandyam Sadhanandam. All the time we need to worship someone who is worshipable. So he says, I offer my worship to you who are always worshipable because you are Sadananda. And we are what? We are all the souls searching for that Ananda. Anything that a human being does is to improve his state of being to a better state of joy or happiness. And that is his final aim. Whether he does a journey on foot, whether he does the Tirtha Yatra, whether he undertakes to do a party or a dance or a recital, whatever it may be, he thinks that he is going to be, a person thinks that he or she is going to be more happier by doing this. So the main reason for doing things is to obtain happiness. Then who is always ever present in happiness? Who has no, Niranjana means who has no doshas. So doshas means flaws which cause the state of happiness to be disturbed. In humans, we see this a lot. Even if we are in a state of bliss one day, bliss cannot even be defined for the worldly happiness that we experience because all of this worldly happiness is dependent on something. It could be either the wealth, the progeny, the power, the achievement, or anything that is worldly. It can go any day. So such type of things we are pleased with, we are happy with on that day. Soon it evaporates. We don't keep that. I mean, it does not affect you for long. Then you start seeking for new things. But a person who can be truly happy only when he finds that happiness within himself, and that within himself is the storehouse of happiness, who is the Paramatma, who is the Bimba of every soul, means who is the inner controller of every soul. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hriddeshe Tishtati Arjuna Brahmayan Sarvabhutani Yantrarudani Mayaya. He is the sole controller of every being. So once that is known, then the devotion automatically it starts brimming in the heart of the devotee. Acharya Madhva's time was the 12th century. He preached that devotion is the only means to reach to obtain the grace of the Lord. And obtaining the grace of the Lord is much required because most of those who are having some intellectual knowledge, awareness, they do not want to be stuck in the samsara with its unpredictable nature. Anything here is always impermanent, and there's nothing that we can hold on to saying that this will be with me forever. If we do that, we are just foolish. So, the main thing that we have to understand is that there is something here in this world which we can achieve, which can be permanent also. So, when that permanence is something that we want to see, then we have to see that in that entity who is permanent, who is always there, and that is Narayana. So Narayana is the only one entity who is free from flaws and who exists by his own nature. He does not need anyone's help, any other thing or any other person to be of service to him in order to exist. Whereas all other entities in the world need that kind of, you know, complete support from him to exist, to engage in activities, or to know anything at all. So Acharya Madhva's devotion towards Hari is well expressed through his works, the Dwadasha Stotras, and other works where he talks about the greatness of God as he tries to explain the devotional and the philosophical literature that is the great wealth of India, the Vedas, Upanishads, and others. Now, those kind of those literature, which was actually the wealth, because it tells you how to obtain happiness through understanding the greatness of Paramatma. And that literature was all in Sanskrit. As the time passed, since the 12th century onwards, after that, invaders had entered into the country, and there was lot of ravages going on with respect to the places of worship, with respect to the devotional literature also. There was lot of difficulties for people to actually go through the Gurukula phase and stringently study all the forms of literature for the general public or the people of the world. There were few families, few lineages who were continuing to do that, but many of them lost touch with this literature because of the loss of that language, Sanskrit. And later on, in order for all the common people to understand the true knowledge which was given through the scriptures, then later through the bhashyas and the commentaries of the great people, starting from Sri Madhva, Jaitirtha, and others, there was a great need for that literature and the content in that literature to be available to the masses in a language that they could understand and in a manner that they could actually grasp. Even if the Vedas were translated into Kannada, even if the Mahabharata was translated into Kannada and required a study by staying with the Guru, it would have been not possible for the public to understand it, to be there with it, because there was no such chance during the time. The upheaval that was going on within the country, the political unrest, and there was an instability in the society. This and all did not allow a sustained method of learning. So they, as the times were, so the people are. They find out the way on how to do it by the grace of the Almighty. Sripad Rajaru was one such great icon in our history. He started singing the songs which preached Bhakti, which taught the people how they should surrender to God, and which even described that God in all his great glory through different forms like Ranganatha, Venkataramana, and other forms which we see as the stone idols. He says they are not stone idols actually. Inside that you have to visualize God. Iko nodu Ranganatana Puttapadava Sikkite Sri Lakumipatiya Divya Padava. Divya Padan is the one word which tells you that he is not talking just about the stone idol of Ranganatha. He's telling, I'm talking of that Divya Pada. Divya means which is Daivi Samanda. which has nothing to do with this, Panchabhutatmakavad. So what the Panchabhutas are stone, and the idol may be of stone or any other metal or wood, but still the presence of that God inside is what is making us to feel that love to Him. The presence of God has to be felt in order for the love to be reciprocated. So singing such songs of devotion enabled the devotee to progress. After Sripad Rajaru, and Sripad Rajaru had disciples like Vyasatirtha, and Vyasatirtha was quite a quite a big icon in the propagation of the um, Kannada literature, in the sense that not only did he compose Kannada songs of devotion in Kannada, which we call as Devarnamas, and also he composed longer works also, like the Gitartha and some other songs which talk about the in a dialogue form. Then there are suladis and long compositions. These were his compositions, but that is not just his contribution. He made the major contribution of roping in other souls who are capable of doing this. So his main disciple was Sri Purandaradasa. And Purandaradasa was instrumental in composing many, many, many works. Around 4 lakhs and 75,000 works are attributed to Purandaradasa. Of that, 60,000 suladis. Many, many dandakas, mundiges, and other stuff. So these kind of songs, they propagated to the people the knowledge that was contained in the Vedas and Upanishads, the means to a better life in this world as well as the other, the means to a better communication among the people themselves, to a feeling of, a peace, a comradeship among themselves. And those kind of songs were also composed by him, keeping in view what is the actual import of the Sanskrit Hindu literature. Along with Purandaradasa, there were great Haridasas like Kanakadasa and Vadiraja Tirtha of that same time. So Vyasaraja, Purandaradasa, Kanakadasa, and Vadiraja Tirtharu were all of the contemporary nature. After their sway was being, there was lots of songs and compositions, and the Bhakti movement was taken to a very high, level, to a zenith during that period of 1446 to 1600. After that, there was a lull in the Bhakti movement. But later, during the 17th century, there was a great saint named Raghavendra Tirtha who appeared on the scenes. And his Vrindavan is seen in Mantralayam today, and he has innumerable number of followers who flock to him in great devotion, seeking knowledge and seeking other things also as a means to reach that knowledgeable state. During that time of Raghavendra Tirtha also, there were many great saints at that time, and among them the Haridasa saints are Vijayadasa, Gopaladasa, Jagannathadasa, and Prasanna Venkata Dasa was also a contemporary of Vijayadasa. So we see that the 17th century had lot of uprising towards that Bhakti movement. And Mahidasa, there was Mahipati Dasa also during that time, who composed many works. He was a great Sanskrit scholar. He knew Persian and Urdu and Marathi languages, and he was a great exponent of the yoga of the inner transformation of the jiva, not just the asanas or any pranayama, but much more than that, yoga, dhyana, which are all above the ritualistic processes that were in vogue. So with this kind of bhakti movement going on in the 17th century, we see that Prasanna Venkata Dasa was also a part of it, and his literature is what we are trying to explore now. So our main idea is to look at the literature of Prasanna Venkata Dasa and get a glimpse of how a person can be uplifted through the songs, through the literature which actually changes and transforms the mind. So how does, because the mind starts to change in what manner? The way or the attitude in which it starts to perceive things itself is changed. And thereby the entire personality of the person gets transformed to a better and to a elevated place. So Prasanna Venkata Dasa's early childhood and his transformation to be a dasa, and how he came to be a dasa is what we want to look at for now in a simple manner. Shri Prasanna Venkata Dasa was born in 1680 AD in Bagalkot. Most of the Haridasarus were born in the Raichur belt, but Prasanna Venkata Dasaru was born in Bagalkot, and it was on the banks of the Ghataprabha river, which is a tributary of Krishna. His childhood name was Venkana. His father was Narasappaya and Kakandaki. He was a learned Madhva Brahmin in the Vedic scriptures. Venkana's mother was Lakshmi Bai, and she was a virtuous woman, and she used to be a great devotee of the Tirupati Srinivasa. They originally belonged to Kakandaki village, which was near Bijapur. But due to the invasion of the Mughals, they moved from there they moved to Bagalkot. And in Bagalkot, there was an Agrahara with Veda Pandits where Dvaita philosophy was prospering. Narasapaya also went to this place and he started living there. He had one son named as Raghavendra, whom he educated in the Gurukula, who also became a great scholar. After many years, that is when he was reaching towards his older age, he had another son whom he named as Venkanna. And Venkanna was very tiny, whereas Narasappaya and his wife they were quite old by the time. They were like at a loss, wondering how will this Venkanna be taken care of? What will happen to him? We are already in our old age, and Venkanna is still tiny. But as the years passed, they were only trying to tell him that Venkana, your mother and father is Srinivasa of the Seven Hills. You never worry at all. If you have any trouble, please think of him and he will always take care of you. You're never an orphan and God will always be there to protect you. This is what he was always getting, this kind of information or a kind of teaching from his mother. As she used to give him the food, milk, whatever she used to play with him, she used to let him know that he is never going to be orphaned. Even if they both are going to pass, there will be Srinivasa who is always there. So he has to only call out and he will receive the help. So in his mind, it was already ingrained that Lord Venkatesha is his savior, is his mother, is his father, and everything. At due course, during the eighth year, he got his thread ceremony done by his father, who gave him the Brahmopadesha. But unfortunately, sooner than expected, Lakshmi Bai's health deteriorated and she passed away. And within a few months after his wife passed away, Narsapaya also passed away. So Venkana was orphaned and Raghavendra also was orphaned. Both of them were living there together. Then Raghavendra and his brother were supported by the neighbors for a few days, and then the neighbors, they told him to get married and establish a family setup so that Venkana also could be cared for. So the marriage was done, and after Venkana, after this, Kaveramma came to the house as the wife of Raghavendra. Everyone thought that it's going to become, life will be back to normal. But actually what happened was Kaveramma was a very selfish person. She did not want to have anything to do with the upbringing of Venkana. And she always used to make him to work a lot of duties, domestic work, and taking care of the cows, never allowing him any time to study. Forget going to the Gurukulam. And the brother was going out of the station to do his Purohit work. So he had no inkling at all what is happening at home. Whenever he was at home, Kaveramma used to treat Venkana with civility. But when he was away, he used to be tortured with lots of work and uncivilized language. He used to tolerate it with always the thought that it is Lord Venkatesha who will take care of him, and it is his wish that he has to be like this for now. Then after some years, one fine day, it was a very hot day, and Venkana was very thirsty. He had grown into a young man by the time, in his teens, later teens, and he asked his attige to give him some buttermilk as he was very thirsty. But Kaverama would not oblige. Instead, she poured out kalagachu. Kalagachu is the water that is given to the cattle, and she told him to drink it. So Venkana was, as usual, Venkana was dejected. But that day, he was more than ever dejected. He decided to leave the place. He thought enough is enough because every time everything has a breaking point. So he decided to leave the house and go out. So as soon he said so and he left the place. As he went out, he saw that there was an entourage of devotees singing the name of Lord Venkatesha, and they were going. As soon as he saw them, he went and approached them, and he also started chanting Hare Srinivasa, Hare Venkata, Govinda, Govinda, and he was totally happy with that. He asked the elderly person who was part of the entourage, "Can I come with you all? I'm an orphan." Then the elderly man as said that you are not an orphan. Lord Venkatesha is there for you always. Come along with us. We are going to Tirumala. So he went with them to Tirumala. And there he was on the way. They traveled through many kshetras. They took bath in many rivers. As they reached the Tirumala hills, they had the chance to take bath in the Kapila river, and then they climbed the hills. At the time of the climbing, the elderly person recollected the story of Sri Vadiraja Tirtha, who looked at this Tirumala hills and saw only the Shalagrama Rupa of Paramatma. He said that every a small particle of mud or anything in this is having the Sannidhana of Srinivasa, and so I cannot touch my foot to this hill. So he used his knees and he climbed up the hill. Thinking about this, Venkana was totally mesmerized. He was wondering about how great this person must be as in devotion, and he was even overcome in a trance thinking about God's greatness. Then when they reached the top temple and they saw that there was lot of rush going on for the darshan, he waited near the door, hoping that the rush would recede and then he could go in. And he did that. He went in, he had the darshan of God, and he sang. He was very much in a trance. He was Then all the priests, they asked him to go out. He went out and he was going around the temple. Then he used to be inspired by the sankirtanas of other devotees who used to be singing of Lord Venkatesha, and the prasada would be distributed at the end of the puja. He used to have that. Long time he decided to stay there, and he used to sit outside the temple steps and start recollecting the magnificent image of the Lord, the smiling face, the divine charm, the Shankha Chakra, the Pada, then his Kati, the Vastra, and everything. And then he used to look at the smiling face of Lord Venkatesha. His true and lively Murti, the Chaitanya Murti, is what Venkana decided to see. He used to pray and cry in his heart that he wanted to have a vision of God. He used to sit on the Narayana hill sometimes and meditate on Srinivasa. And sometimes on the banks of the river Papanashini, he used to sit. And he used to sleep on an old canopy at night. Everywhere he felt the presence of Lord Venkatesha. Several months had passed, and then one day, like any other, he went to the temple for the darshan. At that time, he had a tremendous urge inside him that he wanted to see the Nija Swarupa of Lord Venkatesha. He prostrated before the Lord with a full devoted mind, and then he told the Lord in his mind that he wants to just give his whole life to God, that he would leave the body and come to the feet of Paramatma. His craving was so very high. I mean, it was at the peak level. Then he said, "If you can show me your form now, That is what I want. I'll give up my life at your feet. Saying this, he became unconscious. On seeing his pure and intense devotion, the Lord was very much compassionate and he showed himself to Srinivasa, to Venkana. So Venkana was graced by the Lord and he sang the song Tappu Nodade Bandaya Ennaya Tande Appa Tiruvenkateshane Nirdosha Ne. So these songs started with this song where he started singing about Paramatma's greatness in forgiving the devotee. Whatever we have done, do we deserve to see the God is what the question must have arisen in his mind. But Paramatma is so much gracious. He has given me the vision. And then singing and dancing, he started to offer his devotion in various ways to Paramatma. And by the grace of God, the Archaka of the temple got a dream in which Lord Srinivasa appeared to him and asked him to give a vigraha which would have been placed in a pouch inside the sanctum sanctorium, and along with it to give him a tamburi from the temple. So the next day he was invited to the Kalyana Utsava Mandira, and there he was presented the tamburi as well as the pouch in which there was the Sri Bhu Sameta Lord Srinivasa, which is worshipped even today in Bagalkot by his lineage of people. So, they were he was praised by the Archaka and he was also uh, declared to be the Dasa of Paramatma, and that his name would be Prasanna Venkata Dasa from now onwards. And then he started singing Salahu Venkata Ramana, Dayambudi Salahu Venkata Ramana. So his songs Mastakadolupuva Manika Makuttada Kasturi Namada Cheluva Vistara Kadalali Holeva Kundala Prashasta Vadana Jagajiva. So he is singing the form, how it is looking. When you look at that Paramatma's Vigraha, inside the actual Vigraha, he sees the true form of Paramatma. And he says that your Mastaka is having a nice tilaka. And then Vistara Kadapali Holeva Kundala, your cheeks are so much shining and you have a lovely kundala in your ears. I really, you have a wonderful Muttina Saras in your throat, around your neck, and all lovely kind of waistbands in your on your waist. And he sings the beauty of Paramatma and identifying each and every ornament. It implies that he is able to see that particular Paramatma's avayavas. And the avayavas of Paramatma, Jnanananda. So the Jnanananda avayavas of Paramatma are decorated with this other embellishments which we see in the human world. But the human world has the Panchamautika embellishments, whereas Paramatma's embellishments are all Jnanananda embellishments. So here, these kind of songs were sung by him, and then after that, he started his spiritual journey from there to back to Bagalkot. At Bagalkot, he was welcomed by everyone, and he was glorified as the great Haridasa. So we have the fortune of being a part of this Bhakti movement, we could say, because we are carrying forward the tradition of listening to the Dasa's songs, understanding their meanings, and contemplating on the meanings also, as well as the charitra of the Haridasas. So, by the grace of Srinivasa, by the grace of the great Guru Acharya Madhva, and all the great saints and the Haridasas in that lineage, we all bow down to this ancient literature and the compositions of Prasanna Venkata Dasa. I would also like to offer my special thanks to Dr. Subhash Kakandaki, who is also a part of this lineage of Prasanna Venkata Dasa and who has been trying to propagate this literature among the people so that bhakti can flower in their hearts, so that they can also find peace in this world. I'm very thankful to him for having given me this opportunity to take up any songs that I would prefer to share with the people and give an interpretation of it in English so that it can reach to a greater number of people. And we hope that this service to the Dasa lineage as well as to Acharya Madhva will be accepted and will be affecting and transforming more lives who are seekers of true knowledge. Hare Srinivasa. Thank you.